What's up, everyone? Welcome to Pat's Chat. I'm Doug Kyed, joined as always by Michael Hurley. I am back from Palm Beach, Florida, and the NFL annual meeting, the NFL owners meetings, and I'm here to talk to my friend Michael. Michael, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Doug, do you have the breaking news sound to hit? The deet, 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 deet. Breaking news, the Patriots planes do not have ashtrays. That was my takeaway from the NFL owners meetings. One instance where Robert Kraft seemed to get pissed was the mention of ashtrays. So let's clear the record. Apparently no ashtrays on the plane. Where that information came from, we might never understand.
It is interesting. I mean, I've never been on the plane. I have spoken to people who have been on the plane who don't speak very highly about the plane, I would say. I've not specifically heard about the ashtrays outside of the NFLPA report card. But there are other issues with the aging Patriots team plans. And Robert Kraft did say, what was that, yesterday, Tuesday, at the owners' meetings, that, updates are needed. He said something in that way to end his statement. But no, apparently no ashtrays. It is funny, though. Like, why would a player make up ashtrays?
Right. Wasn't there some sort of belief that maybe the second plane might have the ashtrays? Like the friends and family plane or whatever that might be. We need to
There are
get
two planes.
the Boston Herald onto the airplanes, both of them down at TF Green. Inspections. I want maybe a video blog. I don't know if the Herald supports vlogging in this era, but I would like to see you and Andrew inspecting. I want to see the engines. I want to see it all. Like I want to, because now I'm more curious than ever about the planes.
Yeah, no, like I said, people do not speak highly of these aircrafts, but no ashtrays. And that, I mean, Andrew was the one who asked that question to Robert Kraft, Andrew Callahan, my colleague, and he mentioned ashtrays in the question. And I guess it's good that he did, because that did allow Robert Kraft to be like, whoa, 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 let's get ahead of one thing. There are no ashtrays. So yeah, I'm probably not at my best right now. I flew home from Palm Beach yesterday. We had a great plan. Fly home at 4:00, get home around 7, say goodnight to my daughter before bed. Palm Beach Airport. We had a 6-hour delay, and no one explicitly said this. So this is pure speculation on my part. I think it might have had something to do with 32 NFL owners chartering private planes all at the same time, leaving Palm Beach Airport. I think that's probably why we were delayed.
The airspace was a little clogged up because there was
Airspace was
definitely
a
no
little
weather.
limited. No weather on either end. It was beautiful and blue skies as we sat in the Palm Beach Airport for 6 hours waiting for our flight.
Not
And
a large airport either.
not the biggest. There is a Chili's too, which we got to
Okay.
enjoy. Yep. But when we sat down, I wanted a triple dipper, as one does when you go to Chili's, and the price on it, because like you had to scan a QR code, was $86.86.
That's
Which
not a good deal.
That's a bad deal for a triple dipper, but I did realize that it's like a code, like 86th. They probably like didn't have enough of the items for it.
Okay. All right.
So, but still, just take it off the menu, or like, I don't know. What if
Yeah.
someone did order that for $86,
I want to say I'm not here to criticize you in the way you do your job, but you are a sports reporter and you were delayed in an airport. I saw Andrew tweet it because he knows how to do his job. I didn't see you tweet about it. So
Well, I
are
will
you
just give it for
even a
now.
sports writer if you don't complain about your air travel on Twitter? Like, what is you're supposed to at the airline
That is true.
and really just hammer it home and let people know, like, I write about sports for a living, so let's move this along.
I do. No one wants to hear about travel, but I do want to tell a funny story about it. So sometimes when we fly in JetBlue, and this flight, by the time it took off, I would say it was like half full. So sometimes when you're boarding a flight, and maybe it's before your group number, but no one's rushing up to the gate, you might try to scan in a little bit early, right? You put your code down. No one knows any better. It's Group D, and you're in Group F, but you get on anyway because no one's really rushing up there. Andrew and I tried to do this. The guy immediately said, "Let me see your pass." It's like, "That's Group F. Get over there." And he put us in a holding pen. And then there was like four other people over there in this holding pen. And then a couple minutes later, another woman did the same thing. It was, I think, Group E at that point, and she tried to scan as Group F, and he said, "No, you're Group F." And then he made an announcement that said, "Only groups A, B, C, D, and E are allowed to board the plane." And this was like, I don't know, inches away from this woman's face. There was no one else left in Group A, B, C, D, or E at this point. And they just waited 10 seconds and then allowed us to board the plane. It was like, after being delayed for 6 hours, to go on that big of a power trip and to really rub it in our face that, like, you folks did something wrong and I'm going to punish you for it, was I don't know, it's just a little overboard, I'd say.
That's when I just say, you know what? There's something going on in this man's life, and who am I to interject myself in it? I'm going to let him just flex. I'm going to let him flex because he needs it, and I'm going to get on the airplane that's going to leave at the same time,
Yeah.
whether or not I got on
Yeah.
a minute or not.
We just laughed as it allowed us at all a bonding moment, I would say. The
Yeah,
people
now
who've
you're best
been waiting
friends.
for 6 hours. Like, all right, now who cares about our backgrounds, our political beliefs, where we're from? We can be friends because this man, there's something worse in his life apparently than what's been going on in ours. But yeah,
Next
that's
time
fun.
you're just going to have to go down to like Fort Lauderdale or Miami to get out. That's the key to avoid the private jets.
When our flight got delayed like super long, we started looking for flights out of Fort Lauderdale or even Orlando to see if we could get out earlier. And it just didn't work out on time. But I was willing to drive 2 hours to Orlando to get out, to like guarantee getting out last night.
Right.
But didn't have to. So it worked out, I guess.
Well, here we are.
I'm here.
We made it. Congratulations. But just do more complaining on Twitter next. That would have been a good Twitter complaint. Your gate agent at JetBlue. And then
Big Cat, fix this.
Yeah. And then, you know what? They have no choice but to fix it.
That is true. Maybe I would have gotten a $5 snack for free.
Probably not.
A free snack box from JetBlue. They were also out of pop chips. And like
minor league situation.
Who wants a plantain chip? Who wants the cookies? Who wants the other options? It's all about the pop chips when you're on JetBlue. It is what it is. But yeah, Robert Kraft talked. Mike Vrabel talked. Elliot Wolf was there. He spoke to he talked to Felger and he talked to Kay Adams on the record. And then Ryan Cowden was there as well, who is the vice president of player personnel, whereas Elliot Wolf is the executive vice president of player personnel, but still notable that Vrabel's guy, Ryan Cowden, was at the owners' meetings as well. But what were your biggest takeaways, I guess? Let's start off with Vrabel since he spoke first. I think my biggest takeaway, to allow you a chance to speak, is that I know we've said this before, but like we really are past the point now of hearing a head coach speak and your takeaway being like, whoa, what was that? Like we had with Gerard Mayo last year, where like really every time we talked, there was something that was like, that was a weird moment, or like, why did he say that? Or what did that mean? Vrabel's just such a pro at this that there's no real weirdness. He knows what he's doing. Yeah. And I think the biggest takeaway, I guess, from me was that he views Will Campbell as a left tackle, but that still doesn't mean that they're going to take him at 4 overall, you know?
Yeah, mine was similar, and I hate to do this because we did it all last year where we compared Mayo to Belichick.
Right.
And now here we are a year later, and we're going to compare Vrabel to Mayo. But I do think it's important in the sense that he had such command of his job.
Yeah.
And it stood out. And there was a half dozen instances of that where I think he was asked about like Layden Robinson. He's asked about players that are 40 to 53 on the roster. Yeah. And he knows what they've done. He knows, he's watched their film. He understands their strengths and weaknesses already without having been on the practice field with any of them. He was asked, you'll have to fill me in because I didn't hear all the questions as well. Mm-hmm. He was asked something about a coach on the staff. And he said, yeah, usually you have quality control there, but we have that. And then if you have 4 or 5 players, when you have 3 coaches in the drill, you can really hammer things in. And it's like, he's already working through drills with his, like how he's in his mind of which staff members go with which players and all that in positions. So I just feel like this is why you didn't go out and hire a Ben Johnson, a first-time head coach, because like ultimately Vrabel will be judged on success or failure. But you now have, if you're the Patriots, you desperately needed someone who has the view of the all-encompassing aspects of the job. And that's one thing. That was the main takeaway. The other was he sat with Felger. When Felger finally asked him, like, are you part of the Belichick coaching tree? And he adamantly was like, no. Do I seem like I'm a Bill Belichick coach? And it's a good point because, like, when Mangini went off, when McDaniels went off, they tried to do these, like, store-brand Belichick impressions, and they failed miserably. Vrabel obviously isn't like that, but I think things like that, the attention to every minute detail in the organization, I do think is something he learned a long time ago from Bill Belichick. And so I think that it was an impressive, what was it, like 25 minutes with the media?
34.
Oh, well, he showed that he is an NFL head coach and is ready for this job.
He was messing with people. He's having fun. And yeah, I think the other element is that when you take over for Bill Belichick, like there's so much that you don't know. Like there's so much that Gerard Mayo didn't know. And this isn't to defend him by any means, but like he was trying to bridge that gap between trying to be the complete antithesis of Bill Belichick, but also not knowing any other way of a head coach than Bill Belichick. Like he hadn't worked with another head coach since he was in college. So there were little elements that maybe like slipped through the cracks last year where there was like, you know, what kind of money to give your assistant coaches when they're coming over from other teams. Like that's something that worked with Bill, giving them so little for years and years and years because they didn't hire coaches from other teams. They didn't hire coaches that knew any better. They were hiring Mike Pellegrino from Johns Hopkins lacrosse. They were hiring like these guys from the college levels.
Who was from the agriculture and mining school? Was it the receivers coach?
Yeah. Tyler Hughes was from like Snow College, and
oh no, I'm talking Belichick era.
Well, he had Tyler Hughes on his staff before as an offensive assistant. But yeah, I mean, like Cam Acord came from the college level. DeMarcus Covington came from the college level. I don't remember exactly who came from the agricultural and mining school, but
it was O'Shea or someone like that.
Oh, might have been, yeah.
I'm looking it up.
All right, good. But like that's not to defend Mayo last year or even defend ownership last year, but I genuinely do believe that there was an element of like, oh, we didn't know any better. Like Bill, the only outside coach that Bill tried to hire with experience that I can remember off the top. Oh, there was two. One was Brett Bielema, and the other one was Greg Schiano, who the Patriots announced his departure, but after never announcing his hiring. But like those were like the two guys he brought on, and he probably did have
Dean Pease way back in the day. That was a short-lived experience too.
Yeah, but yeah, no, like there just wasn't. So those are the things that Mike Vrabel, now to finish this point, to close the circle, knows. Like he's been a head coach before. He's been the head of an organization before. He knows how those things work. He's not going to try to do a Bill Belichick impression. He's not going to try to do a Bill O'Brien impression. He's going to be his own guy, and he knows what he's doing. He's going to bring his own voice. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that manifests itself. But I think for now, at least, it's a big positive, especially when you're bringing in as many experienced coaches as he is.
And we won't see in week 11 a coach on Vrabel's staff be like, I honestly didn't know Marcus Jones played offense too. Things like that, where we assumed someone like Gerard Mayo would have imparted on his staff, having actually coached the player in question. So there's already a better command of that. I do think Vrabel handled the questions too. And this was, I mean, they were obviously coming. Like you traded away. I mean, you cut David Andrews, Dietrich Wise is gone. All these captains that are no longer here.
Yeah.
And the question being, was it a culture thing? Was it a player thing? And it was really just like a no nonsense sort of like, and we made a move, you know, and there's no emotional attachment to it. He immediately was like, we got Garrett Bradbury. And like, that's sort of where his head's at. And because it's interesting, because I think a lot of fans were like, and we heard a lot of people talk about like getting rid of Bill's guys and changing the culture that way. And it's like, we've said here in this podcast, like David Andrews is good for your culture. you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
It's not as if he was hurting the locker room anyway, but I do think he handled those questions well to just be
Yeah.
like, well, we made a move. And I haven't found what I needed, but Jerry Shaplinsky had an interesting resume before he came to the Patriots. You ready for this one?
Yeah.
He was a graduate assistant at John Carroll, of course.
Mhm.
And then he was the head coach at Trinity High School in Ohio. And then he was the special teams coordinator and linebackers coach for something called Case Western Reserve,
Okay.
Division III college football. And then
Mhm.
from Case Western as the special teams coordinator and linebackers coach, he got a job with then the 3-time Super Bowl champion New England Patriots. And the rest is history. So you know what?
Yeah.
If you're toiling away right now at some little known Division III college, like
Yeah.
keep your head up. You never know what's coming up above the over the hill.
I mean, Bill Belichick obviously has received a ton of credit, gotten a lot of credit for a lot of things. One thing that maybe we don't give him enough credit for is his ability to develop coaches, to be able to
Yeah.
basically take like literally anyone and be like, okay, now you're a position coach. Like
Yeah.
whatever your background was, whatever you were, he could figure it out and get you to lead a position group. And like by the end, I will say there were so many of those guys who were inexperienced that I think he was struggling to make some of those guys into position coaches. He was struggling to make the college defenders into offensive position coaches. But I mean, that was a system that worked for like 20 something years, pretty damn well for the Patriots. While I'm thinking about it, because I don't want to forget it. And this is not a criticism of the show I'm about to talk about. But after Robert Kraft announced that Bill Parcells was going to be inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame, I searched Parcells on Twitter just to get a gauge of what Patriots fans were thinking of this. I never got a great sense because I got distracted by this. But it was from the Greg Hill Morning Show, and Courtney Cox, my former colleague from SN, asked Wiggy, like, who is the better coach, Bill Belichick or Bill Parcells? And Wiggy like really kind of hemmed and hawed for a while and eventually said Belichick. And then there was 2 comments underneath the video that were both like Parcells. It's Parcells and not even close. Is this truly like, is that an actual debate about who's a better head coach, Bill Parcells or Bill Belichick? Because like it is 1000% Bill Belichick, right?
Right. Yeah. I don't understand that one.
Yeah. I don't know. I wasn't sure if there was something I was missing there. Cause what Parcells won 2 Super Bowls, right?
Correct. With Belichick.
With Belichick's help. And Bill won 6 of them as a head coach. What, 8 overall? I don't know. I don't think it's even really a question, right?
I have Parcells' page up now because he won the Super Bowl, then they went 6-9 the next year. He won the Super Bowl and left the Giants, came to the Patriots, had a bad year, 2 good years, gone. The Jets, 2 years with double-digit wins. Dallas, he was a great coach, but I don't see the debate really there. I actually, because it's always this like the Parcells and Patriots Hall of Fame conversation. Might as well do it now. It always gets sort of convoluted and nasty, and people assume all these things. We're talking and start by saying, yes, he brought legitimacy to a franchise that needed it in the early 90s. Oh, wow, you got a 2-time Super Bowl champion out of retirement to come coach your team. Got it. It was a huge important thing. But what he did after that was coach 4 years and then make plans to leave during the Super Bowl season to go not only to any other team, but to go to a division rival and take a ton of coaches and players with him. Yeah. Like it pretty much wrecked the franchise for 3 years. And it's not as if he did it after a 10-year stint. He coached 4 years here.
Yeah.
I've always found it weird. Like, I don't care that he's in the Hall of Fame. I get it for that reason. But the people that would argue that it was like a great sin against humanity that Bill Parcells wasn't in the Patriots Hall of Fame, I never understood it.
Unfortunately, I agree with you on this one. Doesn't make it for the most interesting podcast. But I think my number one takeaway here is that the way they did it, the way they finally did it made sense. It would never make sense for Bill Parcells to make the Patriots Hall of Fame over Julian Edelman or Adam Vinatieri or Mike Vrabel or Richard Seymour or all of these guys who have been backlogged into the Patriots Hall of Fame because there were so many amazing players that were part of the team during this dynasty era.
Which not to derail you, but like, I love that there's like this stringent rule, like only one guy can get in. There's nothing we can do about it. It's written in stone.
But like the only way to do it was the way that Kraft is, be like, this is important to me. Everyone's getting up there in age. We're going to bring him in as a contributor so that we can get 2 guys in this year. Because I probably like, unless that huge list of guys eventually ran out, I would have probably had an issue with Parcells getting in over guys who helped them win actual Super Bowls, like actual multiple Super Bowls. Like if Bill Parcells had gotten in over Julian Edelman, that would have been kind of wild, even in a 1-year span. So yeah, like it's a team Hall of Fame. It means a lot in New England because they've had so much success. He was a successful head coach who brought them to a Super Bowl, and he's a Pro Football Hall of Famer. So in the grand scheme of things, it makes sense for him to be in the team Hall of Fame, but not over more deserving candidates. So they finally did it, and I don't think anyone can really fully complain about the way they did it. Maybe they can. I'm sure they can, but
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it's just like he went 32-32 as a head coach. He went 2-2 in the playoffs.
right. Yeah.
It's understanding the impact coming off of the 3 seasons before his arrival and how bad they were. And I'm looking now, the Patriots prior to his arrival had won a grand total of 4 playoff games in their history. So to win 2 in 1 season was a hell of a run. But and obviously 3 of those wins came in the Super Bowl run in 85. So 80,
Yeah.
85.
Yeah.
Sorry. And then
Famously the
like
year before you were born.
yes. So how am I supposed to remember the details? But yeah, it's like, it's fine that he's in. I get it. If anything, it'll make for a good story of 2 old men burying the hatchet, which I'm always for. I love when hatchets get buried. I hate when hatchets are out and about. So it's not a big deal either way, but I've always felt, I'm glad that it's over. I'm glad that this discussion can end because it turns into a lot of like mudslinging, and like, I guess the media is the media pro Parcells? Is that how it works? Because he was nice to them.
I think
Is that
the
what people
media
say?
who was around at the time is pro Parcells. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so what?
Nice to them.
Fans are anti Parcells?
I think there is a segment of fans that are anti Parcells.
I just want to know my bias before we proceed.
I think well, it depends on, does it depend on like current employment status?
I don't have one of those, so that's a good point.
I know, so that's what I'm saying. Like,
I'm a free agent in terms of bias. Yeah, you have to be pro Parcells.
I have to be pro Parcells. You kind of have a choice in this matter.
Wow.
So you're not a fan, but
I don't know.
No,
I don't know what I am.
I think you have to be pro Parcells, like even because I'm sure that there's a lot of former Patriots media members. Not to say that you're former, you're just as you said, currently a free agent.
I could be.
Who are pro Parcells. So yeah, no, it's a good question, and thank God we don't have to see that hatchet anymore. Thank God they're going to bury that. Is it buried in the sand? Is it buried in dirt? Is it put in a box first?
So right where the Brady statue is going to be, they're going to dig a hole first. They're both going to put their hatchets in. They're going to cover it up, smooth it out, concrete, Brady right on top, because that is symbolic, sort of like Brady solves all these problems.
It's very true. So Kraft also spoke. He spoke for less time. He spoke for about 17 minutes, I think, maybe a little bit over 17 minutes.
In the last like 7 were sort of bonus time.
Yeah,
you guys.
Stacey was saying, all right, last question. And then
last question. And then the Parcells thing came. And then 3 more questions after that. You guys are just savage beasts in the wild when the owner's around.
So Kraft said a lot of the things that we've heard him say before. There was a moment even where I was like, I feel like I heard this exact sentence a year ago at the owners' meetings.
Well, did you know the other part of breaking news was that aside from his family, nothing is more important to him than the Patriots. And we got a metal bench reference. So the key points were hit. I don't know if that's what you were referencing, but
some of the things I was referencing for sure. But I asked him what a successful season would look like to him. And he said to make the playoffs. So that's pretty bold. I mean, this is a team that won 4 games each of the last 2 years. Their current over/under win total is 7.5. They've got a bad schedule, but a lot of things do have to bounce right for them to make the playoffs. And that's not to say that the season's an abject failure if they win 7 or 8 games. I would still kind of look at that as a success given the state of the roster. But I think it's telling that like Robert Kraft constantly has the playoffs in his mind. Like that is what he's looking for. He wants playoffs. He wants like definitive success for this team.
Yeah, and I don't think when he answers that, he answers it like we do, where we're considering the strength of schedule and all that.
Right.
I don't know about you. I think he's just like, I like what we have. I like Vrabel. I'm sick of losing.
Yeah.
I want to make the playoffs. I don't think he's like, well, we got the Raiders at home. There's a win. I don't think he's itemizing it like we are, but that does help in the possibility, because if they had, I don't know, if we went through and swapped out 4 of their opponents with other teams, you and I might sit here and be like, 7's tough.
Yeah.
But if we look at what it is, anything less than 7 would feel like a failure. That's how soft their schedule looks.
Yeah, depending on what else happens this season with a lot of these teams, that it definitely is. Because I mean, I guess some teams could dramatically improve over the next few months, but that seems doubtful. They don't have the Steelers on their schedule, right? Or do they?
They do.
Oh, well, I mean, if they get Aaron Rodgers, I guess, I don't know. Does that change things dramatically? Maybe not. But
like if it's week 2 or week 3 and Rodgers magically can escape the pocket, then maybe. But after that, if it's after week 2, then they should be fine, because
that was truly unbelievable.
It was like they had a good game plan, and it was to just dare him to escape, and he ran all night long, just running to the flat or running, breaking the pocket and hitting guys in the flat, hitting guys deep. That was really weird.
So what quarterbacks do they play next year? They play Josh Allen twice. They play Tua Tagovailoa twice. And then obviously they play the Jets twice. So they play Justin Fields twice. That's not
Titans.
Very scary.
Yes. The Titans could have Cam Ward.
Titans could have Cam Ward. The Browns could have Shadur Sanders, but probably not. You got Lamar Jackson. Steelers currently got Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson, but probably Aaron Rodgers. Joe Burrow with the Bengals. Geno Smith with the Raiders. Will Levis or Cam Ward with the Titans. Derek Carr with the Saints. Michael Penix with the Falcons. Bryce Young with the Panthers. Baker Mayfield with the Bucks, and then the Giants.
Shadur.
Possibly Shadur. Otherwise, Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston.
Yeah,
not too scared of that one. So yeah, like I don't know, like maybe a third of the quarterbacks they face are like maybe half of the quarterbacks they face are among the upper tier.
No, they have 4. They have Jackson, they have Burrow, and they have 2 games against Josh Allen, and the rest you can kind of go from there.
Jackson, Burrow. Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, no, that's more fair. Yeah, I was over exaggerating it. So yeah, maybe like a third.
Quarter. I mean you get like the Panthers, Raiders, Browns, Giants, Steelers, Falcons in Foxborough. Right. Now, what we did learn, because you might recall, was Mr. 10 wins last year, which was. It was half joking. It was more in response to everyone being like, this team's might go 0-17 is on the table. And I was like, I mean, no. So I sort of bent the other way. But what I did learn in sincerity was a lot of these games that we say, those are ones you win.
Yeah.
When you really, really suck, you actually don't win any. I figured you win some of them. It is possible to win just about none of them. Yeah. So that was a learning lesson for me. So when I look at and sit here and say all high and mighty, like, oh my God, Falcons, Browns, Panthers, Giants, Raiders, Steelers, and Foxborough, that could be 6 wins. It could be 1 or 2 if they aren't on the up and up, but I think that's with Vrabel. If it was Mayo, I'd probably say 1 or 2, but with Vrabel, you should win 4 or 5 of those.
Yeah, and the roster definitely has been improved. Obviously, it's not one of the best rosters in the NFL at this point, and left tackle is still a major glaring need. When Vrabel was asked about left tackle, he mentioned Caden Wallace. He mentioned Vidian Lowe. Those are probably not 2 names that Patriots fans want to hear. I don't know if I came away from this weekend or this week thinking that Will Campbell is going to be the pick at number 4 overall. Came away thinking like it could be, but if it's not Will Campbell, then you're talking about possibly starting a rookie left tackle who you drafted in the end of the first round, early in the second round. So like that's still obviously a very glaring weakness for the team. But otherwise, the team has been fairly significantly improved this offseason, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I'm trying to find what I saw because arm length talk. Hello. You know I'm into that. I think it was I saw a tweet and I can't cite it because I don't have it. But I think it said 46 offensive linemen had their arms measured at the combine, and of those 46, 43 measured longer arms in their pro days. So that's positive news. I also I was doing BST the other night with my best friend Ted Johnson, who I miss dearly. And I got to ask him directly, like, you played in the NFL. Yeah. Was there ever a meeting where on Tuesday you get in and they're like, this tackle, his arms are a half inch shorter than what you're used to seeing. Attack him. He can't reach you. And the answer was, of course, no. So I don't know. It's one of the more interesting, like we've covered a lot of drafts. We've covered a lot of prospects.
Yeah.
The fact that we can't even evaluate the player's tape because we're obsessed with his arm length is one of the more interesting side plots I've ever encountered. And I still don't know where I stand on it because I said here a month or two ago, like, you can't draft Will Campbell 4, period.
Right.
Looking at what's shaken out in the draft, like, you might have to.
I know. There's not really like an obvious choice at 4. If Hunter and Carter are off the board, then it's like pick your
undersized
best case scenario. Yeah.
Right. Like Mason Graham weighing 150 pounds didn't help.
Jalen Walker being 243 pounds isn't.
And plus, their free agency was so focused on defense.
Right.
You know, those are guys we talked about before we knew they were going to get Milton Williams and 7 other guys on defense. So I think
running like a 4.5 isn't ideal. Yeah, it's like there's not a best guy there.
I think you have to be ready if you're a Patriots fan to hear that. Because I think they'll try to trade. I don't think they're enamored with Will Campbell. I think they like Will Campbell, but they might try to trade that pick. They might know going in that no one's going to trade for it, though, because, again, who's moving up? It depends on the quarterbacks, as always. But we'll see. I'm kind of leaning. How do you feel? We've talked about it before. I saw a clip where Shedeur Sanders thinks he's going to the Giants, where they've invested quite a bit in quarterback this year, and we didn't know how to feel about that. I still don't know. Like, and I wonder how much of that will. I wonder if we're going to go on a draft night completely in mystery, like we are now, or if it'll actually sort of gel a little bit before then.
I will say, yeah, I think it'll gel a little bit. I think that at least you'll know who the Titans are taking. My takeaway from this week is that the Patriots are still in mystery mode. They don't know what's going on. How would you feel if the
probably
Giants,
bad, whatever you're going to say, probably bad. I usually do.
What if the Giants said to the Patriots, there's some interest around the league for Travis Hunter. Do you want to trade up to number 3 for Travis Hunter? If you don't, someone behind you is going to move up. What would you give up? Would you give up one of the 3rd rounders?
Me?
Or would you call their bluff?
Oh, I'm calling Joe Shane's bluff because he sucks at his job, period. But he did have we've seen him and Elliot Wolf talk in an electric Hard Knocks clip last year. I don't know. I guess I'm the wrong person to ask because I am, and I think Vrabel handled that question really well, where can Hunter play 2 positions in the NFL? His answer was largely no.
Right.
But he will have the opportunity to, because the NFL is really hard, which is exactly what I said. Like, and that's what I'm hung up on is someone that does 2 things. I don't know. Like, can he be a good NFL receiver? Like, probably, right?
I think so.
Can he be a number 3 overall pick at receiver? Can he live up to that? I don't know.
It does make it a different conversation about having to trade up. And if you trust him enough at wide receiver to trade up for that, because if you're just sitting at 4, then I think it becomes obvious to take Travis Hunter there. But if you do have to trade up and have to give up an asset to come up and take him number 3 overall, it is a lot.
It's kind of like Mac Jones. Like they sat there,
Right.
trading up for Mac Jones would have been insane.
Yeah.
He comes to your lap at 15. You're like, fine, we need a quarterback. We'll take
Yeah.
him. But can I name? This is from Reddit, so I can't source it. But these are all the receivers that have gone in the top 3 of the draft since 2000. Okay.
Yeah.
Calvin Johnson, hit.
It's a hit.
Charles Rogers, miss.
Not a hit.
Interestingly, those 2 guys were taken at second. Third, Braylon Edwards. Sort of. I mean,
he was a good player, but yeah.
Larry Fitzgerald, that's a hit. Andre Johnson, that's a hit. And we might as well round it out. Just we'll go top 5. Fourth, Amari Cooper, hit. He's been all around.
Yeah.
Now.
I don't know if you would look at his career and say like he was fully worth, like based on the draft he was in, like maybe he was worth that, but like he's a perennial 1,000-yard receiver, but he's never been like the best player in football. The best wide receiver in football. Yeah.
Yeah. We'd have to look deeper at that particular draft. Sammy Watkins, I'm going to say not a hit.
Yeah.
AJ Green's an interesting one.
Hit.
Yeah. Okay. And then Peter Warwick. I don't think so. And then just to round it out, the 5th pick overall, you had Jamar Chase. That's a hit.
Hit.
Corey Davis.
Miss.
Justin Blackmon.
Big miss. So yeah.
So
and like 50-50. So many of those guys too, like AJ Green, it's like when you're 6'4", 220 pounds and run a 4.4, it's just like, yeah, he's worth the top 5 pick. With Travis Hunter, like I don't even know if he's going to run on Friday at Colorado. And like, does he need to? Probably not. But when there's already questions about like size and everything, like I wish that some of these guys would want to prove it a little bit more. And when they don't have to, like, God bless them, whatever, like Marvin Harrison felt like he didn't have to. But I think at a certain point, like if Marvin Harrison doesn't live up to his hype, let's say that like Travis Hunter doesn't work out and he doesn't live up to his hype, I think there could be a shift of being like, prove it to us. Like if you're the best guy, prove it to us. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about the budding talk? And this is mostly just talk, but Vrabel was asked about drafting a running back loosely, not at number 4.
By yours truly.
But there's been a lot of
Jeanty?
Ashton Jeanty talk. Because and I guess the case 4, it would be insane to take a running back in the top 5 unless it's like I've always said, like Ezekiel Elliott, Alvin Kamara, like guys that are the focal point of your offense.
Yeah.
Despite the numbers at Boise State, I still don't know that Jeanty is that all around pass catcher, runner, like everything. But he may be your highest ceiling in terms of just like raw talent at that number 4 spot.
I don't love it, but I will say that despite not loving it, there's an element of me that's warming up to it. And that's not to say that I'm advocating for it yet, but my biggest takeaway on that question is like, there's been talk on Twitter of like, and probably other places, like, this is a bad draft. And then there's the fight back. Like, no, it's not that bad. Like, it's a deep draft. Like, if you're telling this is a bad draft, especially if you are drafting 4th, 5th, 6th, well, like if you're holding the 5th pick in this draft and there's no hope whatsoever that you get Carter or Hunter, like this is it's a bad draft to be picking that high. If you're talking about Ashton Jeanty, despite how good he was, if you're talking about a slightly undersized Boise State running back being a top 5 pick in this draft, if you're talking about Mason Graham, an undersized defensive tackle, being a top 5 pick in this draft, if you're talking about Jalen Walker, an undersized edge, if you're talking about Ted McMillan, on the wide receiver on the slower side being a top 5 pick in this draft, like it's not last year. If the Patriots were picking 4th overall and last year's draft, you probably would have felt comfortable with Joe Alt. You would have felt comfortable with Marvin Harrison Jr. You probably would have felt comfortable with Malik Neighbors, with Rome Odunze. Like they handled it correctly, where they took Drake May last year and they had to take Drake May, and it was the right decision to take Drake May, because if they had taken one of those wide receivers or Joe Alt, and then you're sitting here this year being like, God damn it, we have to take Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward,
or
like, you're not feeling good about it.
You're signing Russell Wilson.
Right.
Like, not
so
good.
It worked. They still handled it correctly. But if they were in last year's draft, having a quarterback and having their pick of all those guys, you would feel so much better than you do this year. So It's tough. The cookie didn't crumble the right way for the Patriots in having the number 4 overall pick this year. They
Yeah.
have to pray to the football gods that Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter are there. Otherwise, I don't know how many trade down opportunities there's going to be, but they might have to reach on someone. Which and if it's Ashton Jeanty and if they believe in him, then like it's a good, like, it'll boost their offense, which is better than other options would give you.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it goes into, I think you could throw Tyler Warren in that conversation too, where,
Yeah.
God, if you draft a tight end. Now, didn't we, I had to double check. Is there some sort of dispute on how old this man is? Because
I think there
Google
is,
says
because I think he's only 22, right?
yeah, didn't we think he was like 28?
I Not 28, but I think that people on Twitter were saying he was like 24. But I think he's gonna be 23, which is still on the older side, but he's not like an old man. He's not Brandon
Yeah.
Whedon.
I mean, yeah, and again, you'd be nuts to draft a tight end with the 4th overall pick most times.
Yeah.
But if it's one of those things, right? If the player ends up being very good for an extended period of time, it's 5 years down the line, you're not like, gosh, we really we wasted some draft capital by taking him when we did, because there's not. And I think, to go back, I had to check because my brain, if you didn't notice, is a little deficient in attention sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
The Amari Cooper draft is a good
Yeah.
example, right? So, because we said, well, we'd have to look at the picks. So he went 4th. Brandon Scherf went 5th. Leonard Williams went 6th. Those were good players. A receiver went at 7. Do you know who it was? He went to the Chicago Bears. This was 2015. This was a decade ago. His name was Kevin White, not a good NFL player. Vic Beasley went 8th. He was a good player. Eric Flowers, Todd Gurley 10th. But the point is that the receivers after Cooper, Kevin White, Devontae Parker, Nelson Aguilar, Brashad Perryman, Philip Dorsett, and then you're into the 2nd round. And there weren't a ton of great players in that draft, I would say. There was, and so the fact that, I mean, the Raiders have a lot of regrets, but I think drafting Amari Cooper 4th probably wasn't one of them, because of, it's not as if you missed out badly on someone else in the top 10. And I think that's what you have to look at if you're the Patriots. Do you take Will Campbell if you think he's going to be mediocre? Whereas
definitely, I think he's going to be mediocre. Yeah.
Right. And so Jeanty and Warren at least present the possibility of being elite at their positions. They're just much less valuable positions.
I don't love Warren. This might sound insane. Like, I might get flamed for this, but I think I would feel more comfortable with Jeanty than Warren, despite the value of those positions. And I think that Warren is a really good player, but like, and this is me scouting the position more than the actual player. And like, that's probably not the best thing to do, but like the amount of hits on 1st round tight ends being like the best guy is so slim. Like, you're banking on him being Brock Bowers. You're banking on an absolutely fantastic elite tight end coming out 2 years in a row, being worth the top 10 pick. And like, everyone thought that was going to be Kyle Pitts mere 4 years ago or whatever it was. And like, he just has not lived up to that billing. So many of these 1st round tight ends, like, the absolute best case scenario is that you're going to get 1,000 yards from that guy 2 out of 3 years. So like, if you're drafting a tight end that in most scenarios, it's probably going to top you out at like 850 yards per year, plus being like, offer you a little bit more, be helpful as a blocker. Like, it's like the risk of him being just a guy at tight end rather than the best tight end in the league feels too high to me. Whereas like with Jeanty, I think there's there's many scenarios where he will get you 1,500 yards a year or like 1,800 yards a year between being a receiver and a running back. Whereas like the production of a tight end can be so limited that you're banking on him being like such a massive outlier at that position.
No, I mean, I was more Warren, but you make good points. But the Pitts thing is scary because Pitts was supposed to be a sure thing, top 5 pick, going to change the game, and then didn't. The fact that Warren,
how many tight ends in the league right now would have been worth the top 5 pick?
Oh, let's do this. Ready? I have here from Pro Football Network all of the 1st round tight ends going back to 2000. We don't need to do that. Give me a year how far back we should go.
I don't know, 10 years.
Okay. So Brock Bowers, I think you'd take that if you get him at 4. Kyle Pitts,
No.
No. TJ Hawkinson, yes. Noah
Top
Fant.
5 pick on Hawkinson?
Well, he was 8. I'm just doing first round tight ends.
Oh,
He was
first round.
8.
Yeah, you would have taken him first round. Yeah.
He was 8. I mean, and again, it's year dependent. Noah Fant?
No.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, I guess if you do 20 as opposed to 4, but whatever. Hayden Hurst?
No.
Really? Okay. OJ Howard, he was supposed to be better than he was, so no. Evan Ingram?
Like very borderline.
These are late round. Njoku was a late round. I think you take him late round.
You take Njoku late round first. Yeah.
So that gets you 10 years. There was this goes all the way back to Bubba Franks in 2000, which obviously, yes, we want Bubba Franks. His name's Bubba Franks. But yeah, in terms of top 10, you have like Kellen Winslow, Vernon Davis. You take Vernon Davis.
Out of current tight ends in the league, George Kittle, you like in retrospect would have been worth a top 10 pick or top 5 pick. Trey McBride, probably worth a top 10 to 15, but maybe not top 5. Brock Bowers, currently, I think you would be comfortable taking top 5. But beyond that, it's like Mark Andrews, Sam Laporta, TJ Hawkinson, Dallas Goedert, Hunter Henry, like Travis Kelce, obviously you would have taken top 5. But so there's like 3 tight ends in the NFL right now that would have been worth a top 5 pick in the draft. And you are banking on Tyler Warren being one of those guys. It just like, it's a weak class. So maybe you make the exception, but it's very risky to me.
I have a tweet here that I came upon in my brief research. Do you know Sheil Kapadia?
Yes.
He had a tweet last April before the draft. In the last 10 years, 9 tight ends have been picked in the first round of the NFL draft. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They've combined for 0 all-pro nods in 1 1,000-yard season. And out of 9, only 1 got a second contract from the team that drafted him. And that was David Njoku with Kincaid and Pitts TBD on that list. So I guess you'd be extra crazy to take the tight end. Now, granted, Tyler Warren might be the most versatile tight end. He's played quarterback. He's had 26 carries last year. He caught 100 passes, but may not be the pick. So I don't know. I guess if you're a Patriots fan, the whole point of this conversation is to be sort of ready for a pick that in a normal year might not be the one you make it for.
Right. And just to close this circle, because I'm sure that people will like at running back, how many current running backs would have been worth the top 5 picks? Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry. In retrospect, like Nick Chubb probably would have been worth the top 5 pick, right? He's had that kind of career. I think you could like debate back and forth on like Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson, but those guys have been very early picks who have played very well for the teams. Like even like Jonathan Taylor, the kind of career that he's had would have been worth like a top 10 pick, I feel like at this point.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I know part of it is just like opportunity for these guys, but it does feel like there is a much higher opportunity for a running back to be a difference maker, even when that position has been devalued a little bit than there is for tight end. We've been talking about this for like 50 minutes now at this point, so we probably shouldn't get off it, but it's an interesting conversation to have about it.
Yeah, we could have done more Will Campbell arm talk, I guess, but I think this was more interesting.
The thing about Will Campbell that does surprise me a little bit, like, because someone mentioned to me this week that, okay, well, Rashawn Slater doesn't have the longest arms, which Rashawn Slater, 33-inch arms, Will Campbell at his pro day, 33-inch arms. Rashawn Slater's wingspan, however, is over 80 inches, and Will Campbell's is like 77 something inches. And there is a part of me that's like, who cares about wingspan? Like if you only care about length, then it's really just like arms minus hands, right? Because you're kind of blocking people like that. But Andrew Callahan, my colleague, when I talked to him about this, made a good point where it's like, yeah, but you're also trying to get around the guy. And like, so like chest width matters and like overall length, like Trent Brown being as wide as he is makes him more difficult to get around. So it's not only an arm length thing, like Will Campbell's overall wingspan and frame is also significantly shorter than even an outlier like Rashawn Slater is.
Yeah, and it's if you're engaged with someone or if there's a late rusher off the edge and you're already sort of helping the guard,
right,
and you need to reach out here.
Yeah.
That, I mean, it's not like we're talking about shoe size or something, you know, it's a pretty significant, obviously significant part of the job. So I half joke when we talk about arm length,
Yeah.
but it's just I can't remember anything like this. The arm length talk that we're doing.
Real quick, the question Greg Bedard asked Kraft about age and succession plan. What'd you think of Kraft's reaction to it?
It's about what I would expect from a billionaire owner of an NFL team, which is like, are you effing nuts? Like, I'm going to do this until I can't anymore. So, and like, I don't think you revealed anything by saying Jonathan's been involved in everything. I think we know that. I think Jonathan is the successor. And Kraft almost said it like, what are you, an idiot? The succession plan's there. So, yeah, that doesn't necessarily surprise me. That being said, like, I don't know. I hate how it's like, well, we do what we did at like Brady and Belichick and all that, one without the other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know that we're learning what Kraft is without Belichick, blah, 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 because like he did employ Belichick for 20 years, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And it was like, you can't just subtract that success. So like, no matter what, whether Kraft's ownership ends today or after another 4-7 season or after another Super Bowl, it's almost, I don't know. I get that it's challenging now. And now the Patriots are just like every other team in their fight to be relevant. Yeah. But I don't know if that's like where we're going with it, but I just feel like, I don't know. I don't like the ownership evaluation without someone, because it's just so weird to just subtract it.
I also think that maybe on paper or maybe audio only, Kraft's response to Bedard seemed a little bit more like upset about it. In the moment, I think there was like an element of him joking, being like, "Are you trying to like get me out of here?" or something like that. So like, I don't think it was quite as, I don't know, adversarial is probably not the right word, but like I don't think it was quite as upset as it.
I don't know, because he went back to it. Yeah, I forget who he was answering in a couple questions later.
He did go back to it, yeah.
And he pointed at Greg, like, in what you were saying, you little piece of garbage. That's how I took the inflection. But
you put in parentheses, you piece of garbage. Yeah.
That's what the point to me felt sort of garbagey. But yeah, I mean, I guess it was strange that he was so taken aback by the question. That's all. Because he is.
How did you feel any sort of way about him correcting Ben Volin? There's never been a case in 31 years where people have come to us to spend. We've said no, never one time.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there might be other elements. I agree. Like, they spent a lot of money this offseason. I know there's probably still people who are very mad that they're not spending up to the cap, but like, they've spent a ton of money this offseason. And I'm not of the opinion that they have missed out on a wide receiver or a tackle because they are cheap. I think they've missed out on those players because they've gone for way too much money, which I think is smart to not pay Dan Moore $22 million or whatever.
Right.
Or because they chose to go back to the teams that they were previously playing on, like Chris Godwin and like Ronnie Stanley. So I was even had like a back and forth recently about with someone being like, this team's too cheap, they're not spending. I'm like, who did you want them to spend on? Like, the good guys didn't come available. Like, it sucks, but it's the case. And like, they spent on Stephon Diggs, they spent on everyone else. There was no one really to spend on at tackle unless you want to dramatically overpay Dan Moore or Jalen Moore. It's a shitty situation, but it's the one they found themselves in.
And that answer did kind of rub me the wrong way, because I think we're past like the blaming Belichick. Kraft should be past. Like, I think Belichick was great for Kraft because he could run his business at a very efficient cost.
Right. Because it was the way that Bill wanted to do things too. Yeah.
Who wouldn't like that? But I go to Mike Reese, who's someone I think we were praising, you and I, before we went on, because Mike Reese is the best. So let's go to Mike Reese. Last year wrote, over the past 10 years, the Patriots ranked last in the NFL in cash spending at $1.62 billion. The Eagles were tops at $1.92 billion. That's a $0.3 billion difference, which is a lot of money. But that's last, and that's cash spending over a decade.
I do think a lot of that was Bill not wanting to get into cap hell. Like, he was so conservative with the cap that we'll see if Elliott and Ryan Cowden and Vrabel,
you know what,
Stretch,
like, what did that really get them? I think that's kind of a myth, because remember in 2020 when Belichick went on his
Right.
sort of woe is me tour. Like when he
Yeah, I
went
don't
on
think
Charlie Weiss's show and was like, I mean, we had to, you know, we had spent so much that we had to have this. It's like, no, you didn't have
I
to.
don't think you need to be conservative. Like for a long time, it made sense, and it was the way that, and like having Tom Brady at quarterback made it work to be conservative. But
Right.
yeah, what's it done for them? It's left them with tons of salary cap space left over the last few years.
Yeah. Like they technically should have been in cap hell from 2021.
Right.
I don't think that's contributed at all to their struggles
No.
the last few years. So
Right.
that's where I'm kind of, that question did rub me the wrong way, where it's like, the question wasn't, have you ever said no to a contract? And first of all, that's just not true. Like, maybe Belichick never wanted to go overboard with someone. He did it like twice. Like Adalius Thomas was like a huge splash for him. So I guess maybe that is true, that Bill never went to him, was like, can we sign this guy? And the answer was no. But
Milton Williams,
I don't know.
Big splash this offseason, obviously.
He sure was.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's just more, Bill had a very conservative spending approach to running the team. So I guess that's why that answer is like that. But it's a sort of like a decade. No team has spent less than you. It is
Tom.
That's factual.
Can I tell you a story from this weekend?
Do it.
We're in a safe space. It's past the 55-minute mark, so no one's allowed to complain about this story. Andrew and I, so the owners' meetings are held at the Breakers in Palm Beach, Florida, which is like the most overly ornate hotel. Like it feels like you're in like, I don't even know, like 14th century Rome, the way this hotel is painted from the inside. It is.
I'm going to look up the cost if I wanted to stay there tomorrow.
I think it was $1,500 over the course of the week at the owners meetings. And like one of the things that I think about when I go to the owners meetings is like the Jaguars general manager, McAvoy. What's his first name? I should know this.
Oh, that child?
Yeah.
James Gladstone?
James Gladstone. Yeah, not McAvoy. Gladstone. James Gladstone. He's like 31.
$1,500 a night.
Like
You're
that.
right, by the way.
This must be such a like, oh my God, I made it moment for James Gladstone when he's like checking into the breaker, like unless he came from crazy money or something, but just like these first-time head coaches, these first-time GMs being like, what world am I in right now? This is absolutely insane. But that's the setting. This just like absolutely over the top, $1,500 a night hotel. So Andrew and I were just kind of hanging around, killing time, went to this place called the Seafood Bar at the Breakers, which very expensive seafood restaurant. But we were standing behind the bar and there was two people sitting in front of us. They got up to leave. This older couple came over and asked us like, hey, are you guys going to sit there? We're like, no, go ahead, sit down. And then the guy did like the over the top dad jokes of being like, you guys are the best. I don't care what people say about you. These guys are the best. But this guy was calling everyone coach, even though he was like not part of the owners meetings. He was just a rich guy staying at the Breakers. So he was calling us coach. He was calling the bartender coach. He was calling everyone around us coach. And when we first did it, I was like, does he like think that Andrew is Brian Dable and I'm Kyle Shanahan? Like, what is going on here? But then when he was calling the bartender coach, it was also funny. But so he was like talking to us. And he was like, where are you guys from? And Andrew was like, oh, we're from Boston. And literally the second question out of this person's mouth to us was, you guys aren't liberals, are you? It was just the most like, you're in Palm Beach at a $1,500 a night hotel moment that you could possibly have. But yeah, that guy was quite a character. And I think he gave us a fake name when we asked his name at the end of the night. Yeah. But
interesting. Yeah. People from the South have these notions of Yankees and Yanks where it's just like, I don't know, it's crazy, man. It's this, the I guess the way that we might imagine like a cartoonish Southerner from like a swamp in like the panhandle of Florida is what, like, they have this cartoonish image of us. And it's like, I don't know. We're all just people. We're all just people, you know? I would never start a conversation with someone by saying like, God, I hope you don't have these worldviews or else we're going to have a problem. But I suppose that's what makes me a little different from that fella paying a couple grand a night to
Yeah,
stay
if
at a
you're paying
hotel.
$1,500 a night, you got to make sure that the people that you're speaking to align with you. So,
I will say this about the
yeah,
breakers: the
yeah.
regular room is about $14.90 a night, and then like the premium room is only $100 more.
Oh wow.
So if you're not spoiling yourself with that, I don't know why you're even going to the breakers.
I actually did hear also that the rooms aren't that nice.
They just look like hotel rooms.
Yeah.
It's probably
So,
a status thing, like most rich people
oh,
stuff.
100%.
Like, Doug, I'm wearing under my happy gray hoodie day, by the way.
Yeah,
Under
I
my
know.
gray hoodie, I'm wearing a plain white t-shirt.
Mm,
I believe it's Nautica from Marshalls. But I paid probably $14.99 for a 3-pack or
mm-hmm,
whatever. If I was rich, I
mm-hmm.
would buy plain white tees that cost $77 each.
Right.
And there's not like it's better. It's
Right.
just I have this money. This is what
And
I
you
do
gotta
with it. I spend it. So
gotta
that's
spend it
just the
one way or the
difference.
other.
One of the many differences between uh, that guy and me.
It's a real few days where there's the haves and the have-nots, and we decided to go there to pick up our credentials straight from the airport. And I was wearing the same hat. I was wearing a t-shirt and jeans and some sneakers, and I couldn't get out of there fast enough because I was like, I need to go back to the hotel and change before I'm back in this hotel because people can tell that I don't belong in this hotel.
That's like I'm trying to look it up. I was a lifeguard for 8 years. No big deal. Nobody ever died on my watch.
Wow.
Um, yeah, no big deal. And so I had to renew at some point my either lifeguard certification or my water safety instructor or whatever. And it was at Wellesley College.
Mm-hmm.
And I was leaving there, and I was driving. This was in like 2007, call it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm driving my '94 Acura Integra through like Wellesley Center,
Yeah.
and I was just like, they're going to arrest me. Like I have $3 in my wallet and $3 to my name. Like they're gonna find me and put me in jail in another town because like I don't belong here. So
Yeah.
that might be a me thing, but it
No,
is what it
no,
is.
no, 100%. All right. Well, we're going to get out of here. Go to princesshallyforever.com, donate to our LLS Visionaries of the Year campaign. I should have said it off the top. I got too distracted by my flight delays to do it, but we'll throw that in the episode description, YouTube description, all of that stuff as well. We're trying to raise $100,000 for LLS, and any dime, cent, dollar, anything helps and is greatly appreciated and brightens our day when those donations come in. So, yeah, I think that does it for us, though, right?
I think so. I think we're good.
Yeah. All right.
I
Well,
gotta
we
go
will
get my
talk to you
tire
guys.
fixed.
All right. Michael's going to get his tire fixed. We'll see you guys later. Goodbye.